Okay, let's take a look at our Citrix environment for XenDesktop. We have two Xen server hosts. We have Citrix 4 and Citrix 3. We have a XenDesktop controller as a guest running on Citrix 4. And we also have a domain controller running on Citrix 3 as a guest. On Citrix 4, we have our Windows 7 master image, and that's the master image that we are using to actually generate all of our guests. So if an image gets launched, it'll go ahead and start from that image and launch and create a new guest. Our guests that we have running are the XenDesktop guests down below that were created from the master image. MUC WB1, MUC WB2 got auto-created, and we're going to treat those as special desktops, and we'll go ahead and back those up later on when we're setting up our backup. Let's go ahead and get started by downloading a SEP server. So we will go to the product from the download section. So we'll select System Server, and we're going to download a trial version. We get a SEP 30-day trial for free. This is a 64-bit version. Let's go ahead and download the 64-bit Windows selection, and it's going to ask us to log in. The login can be created free of charge. You can download the software just by creating a login and downloading this for a demo. We're going to go ahead and download the server, so the complete package, and put it here on the server so we can then launch it. Okay, the download itself is done. Before we do run it, let's take a quick look and verify that we do have Java installed. So we're going to run the Java version and make sure we have 1.6 or higher. We are running 1.6.21. Cool. We do need to have Java installed for any server install, or for a GUI install, or a remote server. It uses Java, whether it's Windows or Linux, to give you the same console, so you get the same look and feel for either desktop without having to have a lot of differences between the two operating system versions. So now that we've verified Java, let's go ahead and run the install. The install will decompress some files and then ask us what language we want to use, and we'll go ahead and walk through it. The question about what package we are actually going to install is probably going to be the most critical package during the deployment. You can go ahead and do the System Server. We are going to do the full server. You can do just a client, and the client will just put on the client packages, or you can do a GUI, which was normally done on a workstation, and it generates a GUI that you can then connect to the System Server and modify the GUI and make some changes. For a remote tape, it's going to actually generate a remote server that you can configure and set up storage or tape to back up to from the master server. So you can configure it and have it back up remotely to that device, or you can set up targets to back up to this device if it were on the network somewhere else. So we're going to go ahead and actually install a full System Server So we're going to select the top one and start the backup. Start the install. As we take a look at the install, it goes ahead and launches the GUI, and it will tell us down below that the restore successfully completed and the backup completed successfully. So we know that we've done a good install. It generated our database, generated a basic test for an install, and set up a very small area to do a backup in. Let's go ahead and create a new area for our backups. So we're going to choose topology. Topology can be used by location for a local device or a remote device, and we're going to go ahead and use this as a logical configuration for all of our Citrix XenDesktop configuration. So we'll create Citrix XenDesktop, and we're going to actually generate our clients. So we'll do a new client, and we're going to just define the master server. The master server will allow us to find all of the guests in the entire cluster, so we can see everything that's on Citrix 3 and Citrix 4. We're going to define it as a Citrix Xen server install, and it auto creates a tab up above so we can go through and actually enter our login information. So our login is going to be entered here, and it's going to generate the account information for us to connect to the server. We don't need any guests installed on the server, but we do need to have a data mover. The data mover we're going to select is going to be our backup server. It can be any server that has a guest installed on it. It just has to be able to talk to the backup server itself. In this case, we will use the backup server, and it will go ahead and use that to talk to the Xen server. It'll ask us if we want to create a new job, so it'll start out automatically, and we're going to create a new job. We can enter a task name, backup type, or we can skip this area and just use the down arrow and select what we're going to back up. By selecting what we're going to back up, it will auto-generate all the information as far as a name and everything we need. As we can see, we're able to see all of our guests on all of our Xen servers just by pointing to the master server. So let's start up and create a backup job for the XenDesktop controller. It auto-populated everything. We will say OK, and let's go verify our client, and it did set it, and it's available. Cool. So let's create additional jobs. We have the XenDesktop controller. We also want to do the domain controller. So we'll select our domain controller, get a full backup of that guest. Okay, let's create a new one. We're going to select our master image so that we have a backup of the image that's being used to generate all of our desktops. In case we have any issues, we can do a restore there. So we'll verify that. And then we're going to also back up all the metadatabase information. So the metadatabase information has all of your virtual guest information. So we definitely need to get this so we're able to do the restore and keep everything clean. So we'll select that option. That's actually a slightly different icon because it is not a guest. It's just local information for the host. Create a new one, and we're going to do the host backup to get the host info for the server itself. So this will give us the info on the Xen server, and we're going to also in this case create another backup for the desktops. Like we said, we are going to treat those desktops as if they are a private or dedicated desktop, and we're going to select it specifically. So if this is a desktop that the CEO is using or has some specific application on it that not everybody does have access to, it's going to be the same desktop people are using. We want to save that information. We can select that desktop and back it up also. So we've got all of our guests set up. Let's go ahead and set up some storage. We're going to create a new data store, and let's verify what we have available for storage. So our G drive has 846 gig free. So we're going to go ahead and use the G drive as our backup target. This can also be a tape drive, or it can be an external drive, or it could be a SAN drive. We're going to go ahead and configure it as a target and set it up so we can back up to this. So let's go ahead and just define that it is local storage, and we're going to go ahead and make sure we're pointing to our device server, which is our backup server. If we had a remote device server where we were talking earlier, it would see it here. We could select the remote device server, and have that be the target we're configuring. We had chosen the G drive before, so let's go ahead and define it, and it will auto create a capacity for us to use for our backup. The backup itself is going to have a high watermark and a minimum usage area. So right now we've got it at 5%, and it's going to back it up to 75% of the volume. We're going to create a drive group to manage the data store. So the drive group will be set up, and this is going to define how many channels we use during a backup. By default, it's at 5. If we have a larger channel license, we can configure this for as many channels as we want, and they are stackable, so we can add those licenses and put all those in there. So let's leave it at 5, and it'll auto set up the media. We're going to go ahead and say yes and let it configure the media for that. The thing that we definitely need to define when we are setting up media is the number of locked days. So that when it does a backup, that's how long it's going to keep the backup before it will remove the information for that. The default is 7. This can be changed to 1, so it backs up immediately, or it removes the next day, or you can have it set to 30 so it keeps it for a month, whatever works out well for you. So let's go ahead, and we're going to actually get a file level backup also on the XenDesktop controller. Let's go to the XenDesktop controller and do the backup here. We're going to install a backup agent at this point. So we're just going to get the backup client. It's much smaller, only 16 meg compared to the 52 meg we had for the server download. And we'll go ahead and launch that and save it. So when it saves the file, we will go ahead and run it and get a granular setup for the backup so we can get a better file level. Let it decompress the files, choose English, confirm the license, identify that it is the client we are installing, and we'll go ahead and define the server. So this is going to be the backup server that has access to backup this client. We'll do the server name, finish the install, and then let's also add the client to the domain controller. We'll open the console, and we will start a download and run the agent, the client here too. So let's go ahead and confirm this, and now that we have the client installed on both servers, let's go back to the SEP GUI and let's set up the two clients. The clients are installed, so the client setup is going to be a little bit different. We're going to start with the domain controller, and we definitely want to be able to, we can ping it. So we have a ping test that we did for both servers. We're going to define the operating system, and it will auto add those. It's not going to ask us for the login information. The agent is installed on here. We had to enter the login when we did agentless for the Xen server hosts. So we're going to enter the name here and create these. We'll see down below it does verify that the client is installed and access is valid. Now we can jump over to the clients. Let's create some new jobs. So we will just hit the down arrow and select our system recovery. It'll automatically set up the backup as a system recovery backup, and we will go ahead and Save this one. Let's also create a job to back up the drives. So we're going to go ahead and tell it that we're going to back up the C drive. So we now have backup of the system state, the C drive, and obviously we're going to leave backup with VSS checked. It's a Windows server. We want to get the VSS config. By defining all, it will automatically identify if there are drives or if we add drives later and back those up, so we don't have to come in and make modifications to the backup all the time. Let's create a new backup here. We will grab the system state and we will also back up the drives. And as we can see, we want to definitely get the SQL database that contains the information about our XenDesktop environment. So we will go ahead and select our SQL database, and the SQL database backup again will use VSS. It is a VSS aware application, and it's going to go ahead and quiesce the database using VSS for the backup. So we will just define it, say OK, and then let's go ahead and let's set up some groups. So let's set up a file group. That way we can define all the jobs we are going to be running that are file level backups. So we know that we're getting granular backups on these. Let's go ahead and select our backup server itself, and then let's go through and actually grab the file level for our C drive on our domain controller. The desktop controller, and we will go ahead and create another one. Let's do system level, so we can add the system level for our hosts. Put those all in the group. So we're going to put our groups together to automate scheduling and make it easier. Let's do one for databases, and we'll go grab the database. And if we have other databases, we can go ahead and add it here, and that way they're all clustered together. And we'll go ahead and save this, and then let's go ahead and create a schedule. So in our schedule, the first thing we need to do is define when the schedule is going to run. So let's create a daily. We'll set this to run up every day, Monday through Friday. How about 8 o'clock? And we're going to have it go to the storage that we created earlier. So let's go select the days we're going to have it run, and quickly we'll set the time. So we have this set for time, and it's going to run at 8. Now we will actually create the backup jobs below this. So we have a backup event for each of the groups. We're going to do full backup. We will do that on a daily basis. Let's just choose our drives we created, and we'll set them up for each task group we set up. Or the file one here. And let's go ahead and set up a new one. We'll also configure this one. This one we will go ahead and do the system. And another backup event. And of course we will grab our databases. Now, we also want to get our virtual machines. So let's go back to our groups, and we will configure another group that actually gets all of our virtual guests. So we will just add all of our virtual guests, have those set up together, and we will add those to our schedule also. We of course have our full servers. These are taking snapshots of all of them. We can change the priority, how they're set, and we'll just go ahead and add those back into this daily task that's happening at 8 o'clock. Now here's critical where you select hot and cold, and if you set cold, it will actually pause the system momentarily while it grabs the memory state. So you can actually take care of problems that go around losing your license information and activation information for the restore. If you're not concerned about that, we'll go ahead and just do a hot backup right now. Does not pause anything, does a snapshot and just grabs only the snapshot information. So we'll grab the virtual machines and we have all of them set up. We've now set up our guests, we've now set up all of our agents, we've set up groups, we've set up a schedule. Let's go ahead and run the virtual machines just so we can make sure it launches, okay? Immediate backup started. We can go to our job states, look at the backup tasks. Let's refresh and we should see all of the servers starting to back up. So we're quickly able to set everything up, configure it, set a schedule, and we are ready to go. The jobs are running and they're set up and they will continue to run every night at 8 p.m.